Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the comic book roundup. We don't have too big of a haul this week, so yeah. Anyway, for a quick thing first, apologies in advance for any sounds my chair might be making throughout this week's roundup videos. My desk chair is pretty much gotten to the point where it's about to just say, "I'm done." And so, yeah, a few pieces actually popped off last night while reading through this week's books. So, yeah. Anyway, let's get started, shall we? Kicking things off, we've got 10 Lives of Wolverine, number 3. Where we left off in 10 Lives, we had Logan in the, I believe it clarifies exactly what point in time. Canada, I want to say it was 1910, on an attempt to save Captain Benedict Xavier, who, if I remember correctly, is Xavier's grandfather, as well as Xavier in his Team X, or Logan from his Team X days, in Colombia, trying to save Xavier, and in Japan with Itsu, the mother of his son Dakin. So we begin in the cradle with Logan kind of narrating about how everything's temporary, except for him. You even say that everyone wants to live forever, but here's the thing: the shorter your stay, the more you treasure what you got. The longer you live, well, I can only say I'm tired. I'm really fucking tired. They also hint there will be a Wild West setting, at least maybe in one of the next issue or so. But yeah, as well as a Middle East setting from Wolverine's Department H days. So back in Canada in 1900, not 1910, 1900. Benedict Xavier's crew has seemingly rebelled on it, has seemingly mutinied, as they're being possessed by the time-traveling essence of Omega Red. Logan shows up and does what he can to save Benedict, but Omega Red's essence transfers into a whale, which attacks Xavier's boat. In Japan, Wolverine's been having to fight off a Itsu, or an Omega Red controlled Itsu. And it just happens to be on the same day that Itsu can see Dakin. And so Logan has to be careful. However, as Itsu's trying to drown him, the drowning attempt suddenly stops as Romulus shows up. Romulus, for those unaware, is a more recent addition to Wolverine's Rogues Gallery. Turns out he's been manipulating all the events of Logan's life, as well as the lives of all of the various feral mutants. But so he stabs Itsu. We then get a flashback to in the recent past with Omega Red and Mikhail. As we have learned that Omega Red has betrayed Krakoa and opted to side with the mutants of Russia, namely Mikhail. Mikhail takes the Cerebro sword and seemingly stabs Omega Red with it. In Colombia, Sabretooth is chasing Logan through the jungle, but Logan states that every inch of the Amazon wants to kill you. But a beehive is knocked out of a tree by a gunshot and swarms Sabretooth, slowing him down. Back in 1900, the Omega Red Whale has the tendrils, and Logan's trying to save Benedict Xavier. Though Benedict is not is no slouch in the fighting department. He's a little out of his weight class. But we also learned that Omega Red's plan with possessing Itsu was more to instead of going after Xavier first, instead take Logan out of the picture and then go after Xavier. Logan gives Romulus a quick beating and sends him on his way, but even though he wants to give, as he puts it, he wants to repay Romulus for a lifetime of pain. But he gives enough of a beating to cause Romulus to leave. Wolverine thinking that he wants to tell Romulus to keep his distance or to not come back, but he knows he doesn't need to because Romulus will keep his distance. And he'll in fact send the Winter Soldier to take out Itsu. Logan tries to comfort Itsu, who's no longer possessed, but it's time for him to go to the next timeline. In Colombia, we see Xavier, speaking with a Save the Rainforest group, and but Jean's Astral form is there, but she can't seem to figure who Omega Red is. As Wolverine gets close, though, he's the one possessed by Omega Red this time, which is where the issue ends. I'm enjoying it's a good mini. It's a good series so far, and each issue's been enjoyable. Though I'm honestly finding 10 Deaths to be a little more interesting. So, but yeah. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got X-Men number 8. Where we left off, apparently Cyclops was dead, and Captain Krakoa was seemingly the field leader of the X-Men. Though Captain Krakoa was revealed to be, in fact, Cyclops, having to hide his identity as the world thought him dead. And Ben Urich's possible story on mutant resurrection, well, yeah, that was going to be a problem. So we open with a quote from Nick Fury. "Don't let MODOK's appearance fool you. Only he knows for sure how many people he's murdered with his experiments. Most are never attributed to him." He has apparently been working on Project Amy, short for Amygdala, and loosed it on a cruise ship. He explains that MODOK's cruise ships have been a favorite way for him to quietly experiment with new bugs. However, this particular test will be quite overt. And he's got AIM beekeepers watching the everything. Recording the test. But the X-Men show up. The full team is actually present, though. So it's supposed to be after the space mission has ended. But Wolverine and Sync do what they can to minimize civilian casualties. And Sync decided that's the point to talk about the whole vault situation. He explained that at first he was hoping that she would ask him about their time in the vault, but then he thought maybe he could show her with Jean's power. But now he's decided that he really doesn't want her to have that burden. Adding, who wants to age a friend with 500 years of hard road? But she does have a question. How long did it take her to warm up to him? Apparently a couple hundred years. It was apparently 217 years before their first kiss. And his vote for the X-Men vote was in fact for Laura. But she runs ahead and she's found something. MODOK is raiding the buffet. And he explains that the food is the only reason to set foot on cruise ships. But Captain Krakoa, Jean, and Polaris have rescued everyone that was in the water near the boat, and Sync manages to hit MODOK with quite the powerful side blast when Captain Krakoa arrives, and it has Sync link his mind with MODOK's. And so in MODOK's mind, Captain Krakoa asks what the upside is to them letting MODOK live. And he simply says, death is just a change from one state of being to another. He makes tiny monsters and then they kill. They kill for a glorious purpose, to advance our knowledge. Isn't science amazing? And so Captain Krakoa asks, why make monsters at all? Why not make angels? Though MODOK states that angels are free to soar and often fly away from us. Monsters can be tamed with but a few clever or sharp words. And so Scott leaves with MODOK some sharp words. So he's going to make restitution to everyone he hurt, and if he doesn't, well, the X-Men know where he lives. The day is saved. Wolverine gets a plate of food from the buffet and agrees with MODOK that the food is not to be underestimated. There's also a note from Forge about explaining the purpose of the Captain Krakoa suit. Adding that sometimes mutants with more offensive powers forget who's lining up behind them. Not everyone has adamantium-coated skeleton. And the suit that Scott's alpha testing was never meant for him. It was meant for kids like Artie, Leech, or Cypher when the chips are down. He asked, what is Ugly John going to do when Nimrod comes ashore? Scream 3 times louder than anyone? That's Banshee's job. But he adds that the law of Krakoa, the third law, make more mutants, doesn't automatically mean they're being made stronger. So he tells Scott to wear the suit, put it through his paces, and remember that it's not for him. He was at Arbor Magna before Scott was at Arbor Magna before Forge even knew Scott had died. That's how fast Krakoa wanted to undo that mistake. But they're aiming to have millions of lives on the island, and they only have one of the 5. So he's asking that Scott be Forge's personal test pilot. Wear the suit, give me the data. Give him the data. The more data he has, the more lives he can save when the non-combat mutants are wearing them someday. And he brings up the mutant Soft Serve, who literally makes ice cream. And asks, did you know there's one who makes ice cream? It's the best ice cream I've ever had. he's going to need her country to be there for her someday. Adding a PS that he just respectfully declines the chance to join Scott's X-Men team. The Krakoa they live on now is only a foundation. It can grow to great heights. If Ford needs a technologist, if Scott needs a technologist, Ford suggests Bling. And if they hit a rough patch, he's always happy to consult. Outside the treehouse, some of the locals are showing up with banana bread as a to show their condolence, to pass on their condolences for the supposed death of Cyclops. But Singh wants to talk to Scott about Ben Urich, explaining that he's the one that wiped Ben's mind. It wasn't Emma Frost, it wasn't, it was Charles, it was Singh. And he also and afterwards, he took Ben's notes on the article. But Singh explains he kicked the door of Ben's mind open and wiped the story. It wasn't until later that when he looked at the notes, that he realized that what he had taken from Ben. Including a note with a headline saying "Immortal X-Men." Singh adding that Ben Urich was afraid of the truth. Apparently, he thought that mutants were miracles. But he asks what Captain Krakoa would say if Singh were he's finished being an X-Man. Apparently, the answer is that he's done when Captain Krakoa says he's done. And that is where the issue ends. Good issue. I like the way they portrayed MODOK. MODOK's always a fun villain. And I will admit, while I did enjoy the Hulu's MODOK series, which leaned into the more ridiculous sides of the ridiculousness of, MODOK, I appreciate when a story of MODOK can kind of say, yeah, okay, we're not gonna try and pretend he doesn't look ridiculous, but that ridiculousness is not going to, that's not the ridiculousness is not all of who he is. There's more to him than just that, which I feel this issue did. Anyway, moving on to our next book, we've got Amazing Spider-Man number 89. Where we left off, Queen Goblin had attacked the Daily Bugle, destroyed the drive with all the evidence against the Beyond Corporation, and Spider-Man, Ben Reilly, showed up, seemingly to save the day. But it seemed maybe he knew him and Goblin Queen knew each other, though they wasn't say how. But Ben rescued his girlfriend Janine and left, simply leaving MJ to deal with the Goblin Queen on her own. So we begin once again showing her being made, turned into the Queen Goblin, and escaping and being released. Elsewhere at McCarthy Medical Center, Peter Parker has been through some physical therapy, and now he's doing a little bit of his own in his hospital room, trying to climb the walls, but he falls, and it's about the time that Black Cat shows up. But they see the news that apparently a goblin has attacked the Daily Bugle, and it's time for training after all. But Peter suggests that training got upgraded to real-world drills. Cap's unavailable, avenging something off-world, but Black Cat tells him, that let someone else handle it this time. But Peter says it's not exactly his style. And she reminds him that he did kind of get his ass handed to him by, two nobodies recently, which led to the training. And so, Black Cat leaves his one of his web shooters on the tray in his room, and tells him that if he wants it, he's going to come and get it. As she sprays him with webbing from the other one, webbing him to the wall. At the Bugle, Mary Jane is barely holding on to part of the debris of the building when Queen Goblin shows up and kills one of the reporters from the Bugle. But MJ punches her, and when Black Cat shows up and kicks Queen Goblin right in the face, saving Black Cat and going back for another attack on the Goblin Queen, who then uses her Goblin Gaze on her, basically making her go through all the bad stuff she's ever been through, and convincing her that maybe the world would be better off without her before the Goblin Queen simply drops her. Or sets her on half of her glider, and then Felicia steps off and is caught by some webbing. MJ sees this and realizes it's not Ben, it's Peter. And MJ explains that Ben was there, but he bailed. Peter decides he needs to find Ben. Nothing else but find what's up. And well, they've got a suit. The two of them have a suit for him, so he puts that on and gets ready to go after Queen Goblin. But Black Cat gives him warning, that she's not like any other goblin that Peter's faced before. And she asks if Peter's sure that he's ready, and he runs off, telling Cat that that's his secret. He's never ready. And MJ sees him crawling off, and says that he looks a little unsteady. And Black Cat asks if both the mind and body are strong. As he leaves, he says that tells her not to worry. We're kind of her webs after all. And the issue is a flashback with Janine having shown up and stating that her and Ben need Peter's help, and they cut him loose, and Janine cuts him loose from the webbing. The story has been a good story, and I'm starting to think that Queen Goblin is is Dr. Kafka. That basically everything, a lot of the stuff that basically Maxine Danger basically shuffled her off into one of the supervillain department, and said, okay, fill her up with Norman Osborn's sins and set her loose. That's my theory. We'll see if it's true. It kind of makes sense. She does make some of her dialogue does kind of point to the possibility of her being a therapist, and it'll also explain how she knows Ben, and not just as a Spider-Man, but as Ben. Moving on to our next book, we've got Venom number 5. So this issue brings us back to Eddie Brock, Where we left off with Eddie was he had tumbled to the time stream and ended up in a place called the Garden, which was under the control of someone named Meridius. Meridius is also seemingly involved in the attacks on Eddie's son Dylan in the present, however. And he's released Bedlam out to go after Dylan. But shortly after doing so, he went back to he returned to the Garden to the exact point when Eddie arrived. But Bedlam shows him the Garden. Apparently, the plants are pretty much made out of dormant symbiote. And this prompts Eddie to ask Meridian if Meridian is like Null, or if he is Null. And Meridian basically said, no, he's not Null, but he is a King in Black. In fact, everyone there is. Wild and Tyro. Wild is more antagonistic, Tyro is not. Then another shows up, Finnegan, who seems to be more than a little off, and then Bedlam attacks, going after Finnegan. Eddie tries to butt in, but apparently Bedlam hates Venom even more. And Bedlam and Finnegan go on, or leave, as does Meridian, going back to the point when the symbiote referred to as Ringo went rogue during issue 1. And then also showing that the Eddie that suggested that Dylan pack and to leave in person was in fact Meridian. And he also overheard the call between the real Eddie and Dylan. Basically putting Dylan exactly in the place that Meridian wants him. Even when things don't go the way he go as he plans, they still do. But he explains that what will happen is Dylan Brock bonds the symbiote. That's established. It's unalterable. The symbiote will begin its own journey to the place where Meridian is waiting. When it arrives, Meridian will greet it, and he'll share the name Meridius as he has so many names before it. For on that day they will become Venom, and that is where the issue ends. Okay, an interesting, very interesting interlude issue. I honestly appreciate the fact that a lot of the questions that raised, especially in the first issue, are being so promptly answered. I get the feeling that it has to do a little bit with the fact that the book does have 2 writers, so that probably helps at least a little. Anyway, moving on to our last book for a moment, we've got Thor, number 22. Where we left off, the God of Hammers revealed itself to be the entity that had been trapped inside the hammer initially, which had bonded it while in the sun with Mangog. So the issue begins with Beta Ray Bill, Asgard's Master of War, summoning forth Thor's allies to help. Among those summoned are Doctor Strange, the Valkyries, Jane Foster, and the Unnamed One, Tony Stark, Spiderman, the Fantastic Four, Captain Marvel, Wolverine, Freya, Volstagg, Man-Thing, Throg, Lockjaw, and Lockheed, and Angela. Where are they going? The ruins of Broxton, Oklahoma, which Mangog possessed Mjolnir has just leveled. And it seems Odin is, and Odin has been injured. As has, in all honesty, Thor. But the other heroes arrive. Thor tries to hold them off. But Thor communes with Gaia, his true mother. And is able to prevent Mangog from harming the other heroes. With Freya explaining what's happening. That Thor is more than a hammer, he's a child of Midgard. She raised Thor, but his birth mother was Gaia herself. Mjolnir may rebel against Thor, but the earth bends the knee. And turns out that the god of hammers has been behind quite a bit, including shattering the idyllic world that Donald Blake lived in and letting the Midgard serpent in. And stating that they let the devil out. Though Thor disagrees, saying that Mjolnir has not met any devils, but Mjolnir will. But Thor goes to make sure his father, Odin's okay. And Odin apologizes. He states that Mjolnir is right. Everything, all these things he's made, have all come undone. Everything except Thor. But Odin says that when Thor took the throne, he had so much more he wanted to do. He wanted Freya to see him again. He wanted to be strong, so he held back. So that the Odin force cannot be given in full until Odin himself is gone. And Odin passes on the Odin force to Thor, sacrificing himself. And the Odin force empowered Thor. The full Thor force, and Thor at full power basically stands ready to take on the god of hammers as the issue comes to its end. Seriously, this book's just been a friggin' knockout since issue 1. So yeah, there's not a lot to really say. It was good. Looking forward to how God of Hammers ends. I know we've got in 2 issues we'll have the big 750th issue spectacular for Thor. But anyway, that's going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.